Sure.
The staff who are there, the 8 who are left, what are they? A mix of Bermudian and non-Bermudian?
We have 2 Bermudians out of the 8 staff that left, 2 are Bermudians. One, I want to say it's a painter, and the other one is an air conditioning person.
But none of the others then, so the 6 who are non-Bermudian,
Yep.
they're not doing that general maintenance?
I'm not sure who's going to do that general maintenance work, but the hotel, and this is one to the hotel, be very careful about who does that general maintenance work.
Yeah.
Be very careful.
Yeah.
Can I just make clear, it was said that the 3 Bermudians that got fired were unskilled. That was the reason why.
Yes, that's what they said.
Non-Bermudians were kept on board. But you said they did some work that proved that they were skilled. What was the hotel's response to that?
Well, as we said to the hotel, and we've got to be very careful how we use, and this is the BIU's terminology, so I don't want anybody to take it out of context, that management needs to be very careful how we say that a worker is skilled one day and not skilled the next day. I haven't heard any complaints about the work that was done at David W. Jr.'s house in respect to the tile, whether it was not done correctly or whatever have you. Haven't heard none of those complaints. This work was done probably 3 or 4 months ago. And then they also done the water catchment, and they told the workers, you either do the water catchment or we're going to put you on layoff. So the workers did call the BIU for some advice, and they went to do the water catchment. Now, that also calls for quota, and I'm not sure exactly what has to be done. Maybe the management team or one of the other staff members up there that assisted in the water catchment can tell you exactly what was entailed to get that work done. But you had to. It required a certain skill to do that work. And when we made that point to management, they just downplayed it. Well, yeah, they done the work, but still say that the workers are not skilled. And the union took great exception that for lack of a better word, it looked like people are being used. You can use me to do some skill work. Now when it comes to time for you to have a redundancy or layoff, you're telling me I don't have any skill, that's why I'm going to be put out the door.
You said that you wanted the minister to see these numbers and you wanted greater explanation on the numbers. Right now it's very generic. I mean, we're talking, the government has been talking about Bermudians not being skilled enough for certain positions within the captive insurance industry, and the way that some hotels are now coming up with psychometric testing, it's culturally biased against Bermudians because it is a North American test.
But which hotels are we referring to? Because I want to be clear. There's only 2 hotels I'm aware of that has this test, right?
Well,
yeah.
The Princess Hotel.
Right, that's what we're talking about, yeah.
I mean, has government, who have made many concessions to this employer, contacted this employer after all of these job fairs that we have,
yes,
and said, listen, the psychometric test has to be adjusted to Bermudian culture?
Well, let me say that I know that we've had conversations with, I know that even Herbie Baskin, the chief shop steward and president of the hotel division, along with members of his team, has had a meeting with the premier probably maybe 4 or 5 months ago concerning this test. We've mentioned it to the new minister, the Honorable William Furbert. We've also mentioned it to the outgoing minister, which is Patrice Miners, about this test, because what we are very concerned about, that it appears that the test to some degree is very biased. And the reason why we say that to you is because when we asked the hotel if we can have a copy of the test, we were getting ready to be given a copy of the test when the regional resource person told the hotel, Fairmont and Hamilton, not to give us the test. What is there to hide? Because what I also understand about this test is that there's a father and son that apply for work at the hotel. And here's what we find very, very interesting. The father filled out both the forms. Okay, the son never touched none of the forms. The son was hired. The father was not hired. How do they explain that? So these are the kind of things that we need to be very careful about. And as we said, and I think we made the analogy when they talked about changing the postal system and comparing it to New Zealand and a few other. And all we said, what you have to do is make sure whatever you're going to do, you compare it to what Bermuda, because Bermuda's a small country, and what works in America, not to say that it's going to work here in Bermuda. We drew the same example with the postal situation. Just because it works in New Zealand, ain't no guarantee it's going to work in this country. We need to make sure we come up with a system that works and works well for everybody. And so the challenge that we have with this test, and we've made our comments just recently, we met with the new Minister of Furbert to tell him we are concerned about this test because it appears that, even people that work within the framework properties now, if I work in Department A and I try to go get a transfer to Department B, the test tells me that you're not a good fit. How? I mean, explain. Somebody needs to tell us exactly what's going on. So your point is valid, but we're doing everything that we can to address these concerns as relates to this test and making sure that Bermudians are not being, not able to get a job in one of the 2 fair months as a result of not being able to pass this test.
Where did these numbers come from?
These numbers rather came from the government statistical numbers. This is from the labor, the government statistical department, the labor market indicators numbers. These are real.
Does it really make sense to have such generalized numbers when the government and employers are talking about specified places where Bermudians are not qualified? Does it make sense to get such generalized?
Yeah, it does, because what you have to understand is that, this is just, this report is just gives you the overall numbers. But if you go back and get the thorough report, it gives you all the 18 divisions within Bermuda, and it gives you the number of people that work in all those divisions. So, whether you're dealing with agriculture, you're dealing with retail, it gives you all the breakdown of all the people that work in those sectors. So this is a good guideline. All you need is take this and match it up with all these 16 major industries.
About those numbers, which is obviously what you're doing today, what do you say is the root cause? What's the reason that the Bermudians are faring so badly in comparison to the other 2 groups that you mentioned?
Well, I mean, it could be a number of reasons, right? You heard the comment that Bermudians are lazy and all this kind of stuff, but I'm going to say this, and I don't think I'm got it wrong. By and large, Bermudians are not lazy. When you look at the 400-year history that this country has, it's been built by labor. So other people think that capital is A or capital is B. First of all, capital cannot exist without labor. So if anybody thinks that it can, well, I'd like to see, who's going to run a company all by themselves. They've got to either go get somebody, some kind of resources to help them do A or help them do B. So the mere fact that that labor exists, recognizing that people do have favorites for A, B, C, or D, and I think the only point that I can make to you on that, look at what happened. What was it, 2 weeks ago? It might have been the week of November the 11th, where the minister actually, or the immigration department actually caught some illegal workers here at a site in St. George's, where somebody was here on vacation and they was down there installing kitchen cabinets. And then at a site in Hamilton, I understand that they caught some more Canadian workers that were basically didn't have a work permit, and it looks like, and we've said it, and we'll continue to say it, that probably 15 to 20% of the employers in this country are not doing the things that the correct things because they try to fly underneath the radar. And that 15%, maybe there needs to be, I guess, more of a more stern warning to them in respect to if they get caught, because the BIU's position is that when those 2 sites were caught with illegal workers, they should have been shut down. That's what should have happened. The minister should have shut those 2 sites down, whether it was for a week or a month, to teach that employer a lesson. But as long as you're going to have these things happen, they'll pay the low fine and they'll continue to trot on. And at some point in time, we've got to put our foot down and say enough is enough. Because when you have a situation where unemployment is either at 6, 7, 8, 9%, whatever the overall number is, that's very concerning that employers will still look to do these kind of things, to fly into the radar and exploit, whether it's a migrant worker or exploit a Bermudian, and that in 2011 should not be happening.
So you're really asking the government to be much tougher then?
I'm asking for everybody to be much more tougher, and I think I've made the call once before. I want to make the call again that, whatever work permits are got to be issued to any employer in this country. I would like to before the government issues one work permit, that for now all work permits should be put on hold until Bermudians are seeing fit to get a fair share in the workplace, and once that has been done, then and only then should we reopen any work permits for any migrant workers. I understand the need for migrant workers to be here. We have, as we said, we have too many jobs here for Bermudians to fill. If you look at the latest number here, I think it's 39, could be 38,097. I think that's the number they gave in this last report. It's 38,097. So we don't have 38,097 medians to fill them jobs. We may have 27, we may have 28,000 medians, but we don't have the other 9,000. So we need to have the migrant worker to assist with our economy. We need to have them there.
But you're saying that at the moment, so I'm clear on this, there shouldn't be any work permits issued at the moment.
I'm saying to you that basically any work permits that should be issued, there should be more justification for a work permit to be issued in light of the fact that we have so many Bermudians unemployed.
Are you talking about in like white collar, anything?
I'm talking about any area. First of all, we have people that probably lost their jobs in exam companies, that lost their job in banks. We have people who have been accountants, lawyers, and all these sort of people who have lost their job over the past 2 years. So, you know, whilst you think that they may not have a qualified Bermudian out there, first of all, you don't know until you advertise, until you start the interviewing process. But we can't just take it for granted that the skills that you're looking for don't exist. Whilst you might have made that claim 5 years ago, you cannot make that claim today. You simply cannot.
So you want a moratorium on work permits?
The BIU would like to see a moratorium on work permits, yes.
Brother Chris, the dirty little secret that comes out, Bermudians feel entitled.
Okay.
How do you address your membership in dealing with the employer looking down at the Bermudian with the sense of feeling like, oh, well, young Bermudians, so you're just entitled to this job?
Well, let me say that, you know, as far as somebody being entitled to a job, I think first of all, the Bermudian has the right to apply for the job. They must go in and of course, present themselves correctly. But just to say that because I'm Bermudian, that job belongs to me, no, the union will not support that categorically. But we still say that, you know, there should be fairness in selecting a candidate for a particular job, and provided that, you know, everything is done in order that it should be done in, and the Bermudian don't get the job, then maybe we need to have another conversation. But I would not say that just because there's 10 jobs available, that those jobs automatically should be given to a Bermudian. I think the Bermudian should go apply for the job, and if they have the necessary skill sets to do that job, then they should be given the opportunity to do the job. Why I say they should be given the job? First of all, there's a probationary period. And under the agreements, it's normally 3 months. I think on the Employment Act, it's 6 months. So the employers now got 6 months to basically look at that worker to see whether or not they're working out, not working out, or whatever. So to say that, Mr. Furbert makes the grade, but I don't think it's quite there. But if I'm not quite there, give me the opportunity first, and then maybe with some encouragement from the people that I'm working with, or the supervisor, superintendent, maybe I do end up cutting the grade. But I think that by and large, Bermudians have, you know, a good work ethic. Whilst we may have a small percentage, you can't tell me that small percentage destroys the 40 rest. I'm sorry, no one could convince me of that. Can't happen.
Now, one other question. What is the union doing? Because the government and employers are claiming that Bermudians don't have the skills. What is the union doing to assist their members in improving their skill sets?
Well, let me say this to you, right? We have, in the collective bargaining agreement, we have an article called training. And it was put there many, many years ago, probably 20, 30, 40 years ago. And the reason why that article was put in there is basically so the management team could train their worker to equip themselves to perform to higher levels within the service of that employer. So if the employer is not using that article, because we've had, you know, our members who have been to the employer to say, you know what, you promised training, they haven't had training yet. And sometimes this goes on for 5 years or more, you know, where they promise training and the member don't get the training that's required. So the union has basically done it, what they needed to do a long time ago. Put the training article in the book. Now it's up to the employer, the shop stewards on the job, the organizers here, and myself to make sure that training article is handled by management, and and if it's not done, then ultimately it's either the union that's falling short and doesn't do this and making sure that the collective bargaining agreement is followed, or the employer who's falling short, who's not fulfilling the obligation because they both signed that agreement in good faith.